May Jesus be praised and onward with Mary. Have a good and holy day to all of you dear children, in the sacred hearts of Jesus and Mary, and in the chaste heart of Saint Joseph. Welcome back to our morning segment, Saints and Coffee. Today is Friday the 25th of October. We are now preparing for the solemnity of the day after tomorrow, the 27th of October, which is Sunday, which is the solemnity of our Lord Jesus Christ, King of the universe. In this regard, I could invite you once again to listen to the catechesis from Wednesday evening, the day before yesterday, by Brother Celestino, which you can find in the playlist in preparation for this Sunday's Gospel. And the meaning, more than anything, he focused on the historical significance and also the existential, theological aspect of the universal kingship of our Lord Jesus Christ. Truly, Jesus is King. For Celestino reminded us on Wednesday evening that he must be, above all, the King of our lives, and we partake in the kingship of Jesus that is given to us through baptism. However, there is a moment when we particularly experience the kingship of our Lord, when we suffer with love. Today is Friday, and so I remind you of the day of the Lord's Passion. I noticed that, since there was no obligatory memorial, Father Celestino held the votive Mass for the Passion of the Lord this morning. Well, we can always meditate on how much Jesus suffered for us on Fridays, and in this way we join in his redemptive passion. Yesterday we had an incredible experience moving practically towards Friuli Venezia Giulia. We first passed through Veneto, and you'll struggle to believe it, because they called the office without knowing where we were. Look how the Madonna acts. Then, of course, chatter is chatter, but let's see how the sky guides us. We were passing through Veneto to go between Trentino and Friuli when they called the office, not us, not my group traveling. They called the office down in Sicily because there was a person, of course no details will be given, in Veneto, right in Verona, in the Verona area, who was asking for the final comfort, the last rites. Because near the meeting with God, although everything ultimately depends on the Lord, one always says that person is closer to death, then perhaps you die instead. To put it simply, we are all spiritually close to death. It would always be better to remember this, to avoid pride, taking positions, slanders, defamations, and so on. And especially when we take a beating, in terms of the journey, when we were walking well, and then we go off on our own path. That's another story. So what happens is they call the office down in Sicily, saying there's this person, I won't say if it's a man, woman, elderly, or young, I'll just say from the province, from the area of Verona, who has been following Don Minutella for years and believes that the small remnant is dying. And so they ask, confession. Imagine what happens. We were about 20 kilometers, more or less, even less, from Verona. It's quite impressive. I looked at the two people next to me because we had two vehicles. We split into the cars, and they asked me, Father, what shall we do? Here, it was clear that I seemed absent. I think I was praying. I was truly taken aback, in the best sense of the term. Just look at the Madonna as a work of art. So we decided that we were clearly passing by this gentleman who has confessed, received communion, and was given it by Brother Celestino. I get emotional because, honestly, there's just too much chatter and too many people who aren't right. There are too many people who aren't right. What I am seeing these days is simply unexpected, incredible, but still. Madonna provides as she does. I'm not done. So this person confesses, this person receives communion and the final blessing, and then says goodbye, mentioning that he was indeed happy, saying that I hadn't even gone up, not even gone up. I'm glad to have received the comfort of the sacraments. But Father, what will we do when you worry? It takes faith, dear children, it takes faith. And then afterwards we went, you see, before going to Friuli, we stopped by Auto Trentino to meet another person from the little remnant who has also confessed. This person has confessed and received the holy oil. This time, I gave the holy oil, the last rites, which is very beautiful with the traditional rite. They anoint the eyes, the hands, the feet, the ears, the nostrils, the mouth, I think the mouth too, yes. And then there was the Holy Mass in her home, which I celebrated with the family. She is a person who for some time has lost her husband, whom we had gone to confess. Now this dear person is preparing for her meeting with God. I didn't say who they are, but I wanted to give this testimony a few hours before the solemnity of Christ the King. These are very important signs that the Lord guides us, and that the little remnant is truly accompanied step by the Holy Virgin Mary. So, well, last night there was the catechesis, as you know, on the Apocalypse from my book, The Symphony of the Lamb. It was the 9th episode. We looked at the letter to the Church of Sardis titled, I Will Come Like a Thief. I hope you were able to follow it, because we must feed on the Word of God. The Holy Scripture must nourish our life of faith. And it seems to me that Don Minutella, compared to what is being said, because now everyone is offended, everyone is resentful, everyone, all of Italy. Italy is all upset with the aggressive Don Minutella. While what is said to Don Minutella, that's fine, that's expected, that's something he has to take. One of the most bizarre things said at this moment is that Don Minutella relies solely on prophecies. Nothing could be more dishonest and false. Don Minutella has not stopped once in these 8 years from catechizing the people who remain Catholic with the Word of God. But I don't need to defend myself because the Madonna takes care of that. She provides, as we will see soon. What I wanted to say is that last night there was this beautiful catechesis. I like it too because this 7-fold message to the churches of Asia Minor between chapters 2 and 3 of the Revelation truly helps us to grow. It's an invitation, a question that Christ, the Lord, the King, the Emperor, poses to each of us, as well as to all the churches. So if you couldn't see it, you can find it on the Radio Domina Nostra playlist, last night's catechesis. The book is always available at the Radio Domina Nostra office. Anyway, we take them around. And I wanted to remind you first that today is Friday, so it's the day, as I was saying, of the adoration of the cross. And we honor the passion of Jesus in 2 ways. The first being abstaining from meat. Today, no meat or its derivatives are to be eaten. Please remember that, and it should be explained within the family so that future generations can grow up and reclaim this pious tradition of not eating meat on Fridays to honor the Passion of the Lord. The other pious practice is the devout exercise of the personal or group stations of the cross, which we can do to gain indulgence. Thinking, meditating on Jesus' passion. But many times I have told you that for some time now I have been adding a third component, which is then that decisive one. We offer our sufferings to the Lord in these days. I'm really struggling, as you can imagine, in light of what's happening. It feels like a conspiracy. It seems like satanic stuff. So much ado about nothing. To see the souls dear to me, the souls that Father Pio guided, he would slap the souls dear to him. But there was more humility in the past. Just because Don Minutella raises his voice to say, be careful of the last piper, because if you do it well, without getting carried away by emotion, I'm obviously talking about Father Faré. If you let yourselves get too carried away by emotion, and instead stay calm and anchored to sound doctrine, you'll notice that he's playing you, because it seems he's come out. In the end, when you get down to it, he's holding you back to where you started. They get upset if I say it, raise my voice, or call them stupid. Why can't a dad say that? Defend myself? No way. You can go ahead and leave if you want. You'll realize I was a father. I was truly a father. As if that wasn't enough, I should present to you every time everything I have done for you. You unfortunate ones. If you're not fools, you're unfortunate. Look, I insist. Don't think that I let myself be caught up in your spiritual aristocracies. You deserve it. If we were in the times of Father Pio would have given a couple of you a little chisel as you deserve. Perhaps we're no longer on the same page. Well, I was saying I don't know what has been lost. I was saying that a couple of unfortunate children are leaving, but they're leaving in the worst possible way. Someone sent me an audio yesterday. I was left speechless. She spreads hate. She was talking to me. You see, she was discussing Father Fare with me, so the blow is all mine now. Got it? It's incredible. But I am offering everything. Look, happy to do it. I am in joy. I'm truly telling you, know this. I'm in joy because I have certainty. To tell the truth, I know what they hold dear. I don't act out of personal hidden interests. There are no plots behind this like elsewhere. Open your eyes. You still have time. Ask for forgiveness and return to the right path. It's incredible what is happening at this moment. I believe it's the worst attack that has ever occurred. My fault is having given notoriety to this fellow who doesn't deserve it. But then they tell me the way he responds to certain interlocutors who ask questions. Chocolate ice cream, sushi, what kind of answers are those? If I had given them, imagine, poor Christ of Don Minutella, but I offer everything. The slanders are a grace. Blessed are you when they insult you and persecute you. If a father tells a son that you are stupid, then maybe you don't like the fool, stupid. The father can't say it, can he? He must say it, silly Galatians. St. Paul was worse off. When St. Paul discovered that the Galatians, after he had proclaimed the gospel, had turned to another gospel, he wrote it to them directly. I only told you. All of you aristocrats of the little remainder, you'd best be off. Go after those who offer you chocolate ice cream and the journalist who got lost on the way. Go ahead. But I remind you that St. Paul has already said this. Oh, foolish Galatians. If you look up the Greek text, I found this research. It's synonymous with fools, with idiots. Fools. If you look up the word cretino in an Italian dictionary, one of the first things it tells you is that it comes from the Provençal chrétien, which, well, never mind, it means foolish. And so, O foolish Galatians, who has bewitched you? St. Paul could tell the Galatians that they had turned to another gospel. And Don Minutella cannot say this to the faithful of the small remnant who now follow the last piper that has arrived. And so now the masses are valid again. The church is once more that. Yesterday I had to hear things from another world. Enough. Stop it. To stop spreading hate. Stop spreading hate. Don Minutella spreads hate. Honestly, look, this is a plot of Satan. But I repeat, foolish Galatians, who has bewitched you, so if you feel offended, it's best you leave. I am a father, I have paid and I am paying with the clerical robe alongside Don Enrico Berlusconi for this debt, and you may have 1,000 excuses, but only one father has given you faith. Remember that. You may be patricides, but before God you will present yourselves, and the Lord will ask you where your father is, the one who gave his life to open your eyes, and you went away at the first piper. That he would have said the exact same things in the end. Either way's fine. I mean it like this. It could be that Father Fare simply didn't want to join the Brotherhood. At first it seemed like just that, right? But Brother Celestino, when he intervened exactly last week, in the face of all this mess, it was because we realized that, in fact, upon studying things closely, Father Fare not only didn't want to join the association and elegantly snubbed us, but he also said the opposite of what we say. How is it possible that our children, our little sheep, have immediately forgotten about us and have gone there? And now let me hear, they are all upset. Dr. Cianci is upset, Father Fare is upset. And the little remainder of resentments. The resentments. Everyone wants an apology. Everyone wants an apology. Oh, foolish and stupid Galatians. Fools means idiots. Go and look it up and you'll see I'm not wrong. And you take it as you deserve. Proud and arrogant lay people that you are, you should be quiet. Padre Pio would slap, send away, and raise his voice with his spiritual children. He was demanding, Padre Pio. And I will be so until the end of my days. Those who understand fatherhood, the authority that the Lord has given to Don Minutella, follow him, of course, with his limitations, naturally. Everything that is happening, I offer it up, so you should do the same, because today is Friday, and this reminds us that Jesus suffered on the cross to save the world. So every Friday we abstain from meat. We take the path as one does. But above all, I would say that every day we offer our sufferings to the Lord so that He can continue to govern the world with His merciful love. In a meeting I had yesterday with a group of people, I was very struck by a young man who he manages a farm among their vines. These are people who reassure me, hidden, whom no one knows. A young man who milks the cows. He seems like a young man from another time. I won't give his name. Of course, I won't say where I met him because I respect everyone. But he said, "Don Minutella, please continue. Every morning I connect with the sister's prayer. I recite the 3 rosaries. Also, yesterday I received a call from Mr. Maria, a father with a family, who said, 'I discovered the beauty of the 3 rosaries thanks to you, and I am grateful for all of that.' So I'm not referring to the people who are with us and who are the majority, but to these capricious little sheep, to these vain little sheep. But why does he use these terms? Of fools. They are offended, resentful. Despite all the repeated attempts, they are not truly worthy of being among the little remnant. Those who act like this, they are not worthy of being among the little remnant. Foolish. Galatians. Letter of Paul the Apostle to the Galatians. Look up what fools means, and you will see it means foolish. That's what I wanted to say. How is it possible that you come back? People like this frighten me. You are inconsistent people. Look at what the Apostle James says in his letter. They are like clouds driven by the wind, something that is frightening. You see how people with extreme ease, those who were with us, I won't say from where, who gave their lives, who organized meetings in their areas. Here comes the pseudo-mystic with Father Gebhard. He leaves Don Minutella publicly revealing the private matters of the regional representatives to attack him. Then he also leaves those who now tell me he's gone who knows where. Are you joking? But you are worse than the Galatians. Father Faré has arrived with his, in my opinion, apparent elegance. We need to see who is truly elegant. Because raising your voice doesn't mean lacking elegance. Everyone picks what they want. Let's forget about the method and the form. Let's get to the content that tells you that the masses are still valid. He said, go to church on Sunday, keep the Lord's Day holy. After 8 years of us deflating to say, don't set foot here. I pity you, pity yourself. I feel pain and cause pain. Those who are now acting all offended, and then the offended ones who have left, and those who thank God remain. There's an intermediate game. They say I'm a bit, though, Don Minutella, these violent tones. And because he calls people idiots who act like that, who make a fuss, they are stunned. Letter to St. Paul, Apostle of the Galatians. St. Paul announced the gospel, paying personally as did a certain Don Minutella with his confreres. Then he doesn't have time to leave the community of the Galatians and writes to the Galatians directly. What we are saying, foolish Galatians, who has bewitched you, is there perhaps another gospel? Another gospel? San Paolo says that's what I wanted to ask all of you. Listen again to the last word that Don Minutella used. You should instead reflect and ask yourselves, but why did Father Faré leave? And in the end, what was it for? To say that the minds are valid, that this is the Church of Christ, and that the cardinals, which cardinals we need to understand, will save the Church. Yesterday, we had an important live session while I was traveling, during which I explained to you that Scrosati is right because, although it is not a dogmatic point of tradition, it is a reflection that began only between the 1800s and 1900s, this of universal and peaceful consensus regarding the election of the Pope, even when there might be some doubt. However, we must follow the true Church, and this is the true Church that recognizes him as Pope. Therefore, Father Faré must acknowledge him as Pope, that is, in a closed cage, Father Faré, just like Dr. Cianci. I repeat it, and then no one answers me to these questions, because since they are resentful, it is not necessary to respond to these questions. I found out in the past few days. I told the person concerned that I would let them know, so they can't say I didn't warn them, that I will have to go to Belgium. A prayer meeting was scheduled for the 23rd of November in Namur, Belgium, on behalf of, I won't name this person from Belgium, a woman who now prefers Father Faret and Dr. Cianci, asking me instead not to sow hatred. She understood it all anyway. I told this person that I am available to go and confront Father Faret in a foreign land. So, the issue is this: if what Bergoglio leads is still, but now I will show you once again that it cannot be. It cannot be even for those who are not foolish. Now the direction will shortly show you the text that I want to read to you and that we want to read together. We want to read it together so that those of you who are still a bit uncertain understand that Don Minutella, even when he called people cretins, fools, stupid, idiots, did so in the style of St. Paul with Pauline Parisia, all right? So if Don Minutella spreads hate, so did St. Paul. All done. So I was saying that if what Bergoglio, as Father Faret says, is still the Church of Jesus Christ, then Scrissati is right to tell him that he must recognize him as Pope. Why? Because there is a universal and peaceful consensus, a peaceful and universal acceptance that he is the Roman Pontiff. It's true that there was Caterina Danels, but he has died. It's true, that's all we know. But in the current status, the cardinals, the bishops, etc., they recognize Bergoglio as Pope. All there. There isn't a cardinal or a bishop who has fought to prove that Bergoglio isn't the Pope. So if all this church, and we are safe, because we say, but all this church can say what it wants about Bergoglio, it is not the Catholic Church. It cannot be, because it goes against the gospel, against the apostolic tradition, openly, clearly, deliberately, stubbornly. It cannot be the Church of Jesus Christ, this one of the Pachamama Synod, of Amoris Laetitia and Trust Upplicans. And since it cannot be, then for us, the universal peaceful acceptance of this whole agglomeration of bishops and cardinals scattered around the world, apostates and heretics, accomplices in Bergoglio's demolition work, clearly is not something that can be done. For us, it's clear it doesn't cause issues, as it's not the Church of Jesus Christ. So if there is an acceptance from all of them of Bergoglio as Pope, it's up to them, because it's not the Catholic Church. If, however, Father Faret says that it is now clear that Bergoglio is not the Pope, but he leads the Catholic Church, aside from the fact that he should question after 12 years if it's normal for things to continue like this. Anyway, what would have happened to the assistance of the Holy Spirit, the presence of Christ in the host, etc.? But still, if he says that is the Catholic Church, he must acknowledge that Scrissati is right, peaceful and universal acceptance, which I repeat is not an officially recognized dogma of the Church, but it has its value and it is true. So if that is the true Church, and apparently Dr. Cianci thinks so too, that it is the true Church, then they must accept, they must recognize universal and peaceful acceptance. The whole Church that they consider true recognizes Bergoglio as Pope Francis. That's it. Shut up, accept it too, because you are in a contradictory position. In this sense, Don Minutella with the Sodalizio comes out with extraordinary elegance. I mean, we simply say that we are consistent. They shame the Pope and lead the false church of darkness. Now, regarding this false church, a church without the gospel and without tradition, we will return to it in a moment. In the meantime, I wanted to show you with the direction the text of St. Paul in chapter 3 of the letter to the Galatians. Let's read it together so no one can say that Don Minutella makes things up. Chapter 3, verses 1 and following. O foolish Galatians, read carefully. And the Greek text refers to the Italian words cretins, stupid, foolish indeed. The text obviously cannot say cretins. It's a synonym. It is synonymy. Who has enchanted you? Here's the reason why since you're being resentful, there are regions in Italy, I won't say which, where everyone is worried about Don Minutella, but these strong tones and St. Paul, Father God who used to slap and kick certain people out, And you are no longer humble, secular. You are no longer humble people. It's not Don Minutella who's shouting right now, it's your pride. Madonna enlightens the humble, revealing Dominatella, Sodalis priests, and the small remnant. Whoever made them bitter, this is all I would like to know from you, and so on and so forth. Then you read it, read the text that is right in front of your eyes. Let's return to what I was saying, because it's important. So if that was still the Catholic Church, now there's the regulatory issue of universal peaceful acceptance. How do they justify it? Father Faré, if there is a church that is true, this church recognizes Bergoglio. At least the Ecclesia Docens, which is made up of the successors of the apostles, officially recognizes Bergoglio as Pope. If they do not officially recognize him, then they are in serious trouble, because they lose their soul if they believe that some bishop from who knows where does not recognize that Bergoglio is the Pope and pretends nothing is happening. But that's another matter. It's their problem. But officially, the Ecclesia Docens is made up of the bishops who are the successors of the apostles and recognize Bergoglio as the Pope. So that's it. Be quiet, because everyone acknowledges him as the Pope. Universal peaceful acceptance. How do we put it? Foolish Galatians, were you with us, and did you go behind the poisoned grains? All right, now let's move on. This is the regulatory side. Today, I'd like to add thoughts on yesterday. The title today is The Church Without Gospel and Without Tradition. Is it the Church of Christ? We can see very clearly that the so-called Catholic Church, which it isn't, seems to be facing a kind of spiritual bastardization. I'll explain better. It seems that when they decide to come at me, they don't even listen. There's a diabolical scream, because I would like them to answer this question. Did Father Pio say or not, who is certainly not the last to arrive, that he speaks of a false church of darkness, of a false church led by Satan? We see Caterina Emmerich, Monsignor Futoshin, the mystical body of the Antichrist. Have I explained theologically how it is that the Antichrist leads the Church of Christ? Because in the end, Father Faré emphasizes this. That is, the Antichrist, unless he wants to believe that Bergoglio is merely the anti-pope. But then it's all just Taralucci and Cotechino, Speaking of chocolate ice cream, sushi, I add Taralucci and Cotechino. If for Father Faré, for all of you now, O foolish Galatians, you are following him, Bergoglio suddenly is just an anti-pope. Enough! So, make your own way. If you don't see the Antichrist traits of those who have changed the gospel, of those who are transforming an intangible 2,000-year legacy in just a few years, that's your problem, not ours. See it yourselves. Bergoglio is changing the gospel, so he is an antichrist. Can the Antichrist lead the Church of Jesus Christ? Are you mad? Have you drunk your brains away, you idiots? Have you drunk your brains and now you want apologies too? But it's truly speechless. So what Father Faré says is that the Church of Christ is led by an Antichrist. Because Bergoglio, I repeat, don't be trivial. Those are the last hour. If Bergoglio's just the anti-pope, what do you plan with us? Is the Pachamama procession just an anti-pope's idea? Or is there something anti-Christian, demonic, diabolical, preternatural? Are you really that foolish? And feel free to be offended, but just go away. Go away. You don't deserve to be among us. You're contaminating us. You're polluting the air. You infected. We are safe. Don't come with us. You know-it-alls who still insist, and I have to stay quiet. I have to stay quiet because everyone has to say that I spread hate because I speak the truth. Spread hate. So that of Jesus Christ is the church led by the Antichrist. Are you mad theologically out of every criterion? It's from the short circuit of Father Faré. So, the Church of Jesus Christ? It would be led by someone who is a primary disciple, if not already him, something of the Antichrist. Unless you truly want to act foolishly, saying that Bergoglio is merely the antipope. I'm waiting to see. Because I no longer follow him, I have no reason to do so. My time is precious. I'm being given workshops on what Dr. Cianci should decide now, who for years has been highlighting all the anti-Christian, Gnostic, esoteric framework of Bergoglio. And I'd like to understand if now I say that for him all this aspect disappears. Because if it doesn't disappear, and he's Catholic, then at this point he should be able to say it. He should try to make up his mind. If Bergoglio is merely an anti-pope whose solution is canonical, or he is not the Antichrist, or he is not Satan's disciple, then if he is, and you lack the courage, be very aware that you are corrupting souls. You are corrupting souls, Father Faré. Are you aware of your responsibility? No, it's Christ's church, and nothing, the disciple of Satan, leads it. But are they mad? It's the ineffectiveness of the church, it's the holiness of the church, it's the fact that in the church the gates of hell do not prevail. Because if Bergoglio truly leads the true church, even if he is a false pope, he still leads it with universal and peaceful acceptance. The documents are, to rejoice, even the unicum, the document on the heart of Christ, has been released. It's a strategy, this intermediate phase between the closure of the synod is closing. Since there is news that the synod continues, you will see that it will be so. The synod will continue in a way that we do not know how. They will probably talk about a structure, probably synodal, to then place us, with the times already expected, gradually introducing the deaconesses. And so, in this interim phase, Pope Francis the mystic, Pope Francis of the heart of Jesus, has published a document, and everyone accepts it. So if everyone accepts it, Father Faré must accept it too. He cannot think alone that Bergoglio is not the Pope, and the whole church accepts it, because if for him that is the church, what happens to him? Which church is he with? Or does he claim to solve for the entire church? What the cardinals will not resolve. They won't fix it. I don't know if I explained myself simply to my collaborators, or if it's just too complicated to understand. So if the church is infallible, if the church is of Jesus Christ, if the church is holy, how is it possible that it is led not only by an antipope, but by one who has changed the gospel? And I would like to be with all of you. We spoke in conclusion, without ever stopping, that the church exists because there is the gospel and there is the apostolic tradition. Today, I would like to quote what the Catechism of the Catholic Church says about this very important fundamental theology that evidently Father Faré should review properly. So number 17. So, pay attention to the pipers, then the number 70, as I take it. Here it is, 75. It titles the Apostolic Tradition, says Christ the Lord, and cites the Second Vatican Council, Dei Verbum. In my opinion, it is one of the most beautiful documents of the Second Vatican Council, Christ the Lord, in which all the revelation of his God is fulfilled. He commanded the apostles, he commanded the apostles to communicate the divine gifts of preaching the gospel to all, which had been promised earlier through the prophets, and fulfilled and proclaimed with his word as the source of all saving truth and every moral rule. So the Catechism, referring to Dei Verbum, well, Don Minutella does not spread hatred, Mrs. Tizia. Don Minutella shouting the truth and whispering the error are two very different things, and yet you follow the latter because it's the last flame that has arrived. So about this last flame I would like to ask, how do we handle it? Because this that you consider, Father Faré, the Catholic Church is still going against the gospel. It's not that there is an official reality opposing it. There isn't. There have been 5 cardinals who presented 5 doubts, and then what did they do? What did they do? In fact, by their silence, they accept that Pope Francis has destroyed the Church, which for them is still the historical one. Does that seem normal to you? Christ, sir, orders the apostles to preach the gospel. Here lies the entire meaning of the church. Look, this thing about the council Dei Verbum is wonderful. And then Benedict XVI emphasized it. I don't know how many countless times that the council wanted to restart even though it wasn't explicitly stated, and von Balthasar lamented this. However, Ratzinger wanted to say he was there at the council. In reality, the council fathers, at least at the beginning, truly wanted to have this theocentric option, and this declaration of Dei Verbum is beautiful. That is, first of all, the word, Christ commanded the apostles. It's not that he suggested it to them. It doesn't say that the document which takes up the Second Vatican Council, Dei Verbum at number 7, says that Christ suggested, that Christ commanded the apostles, but it says that Christ ordered the apostles. What did he order the apostles? To announce the gospel, that's it. And the apostles are the guarantee, the rule. The Pope, as it was once said, is the physical rule of faith, the visible rule of faith. Why? He succeeds the apostles, but it is as the Bishop of Rome, the successor of Peter, therefore the head of the Apostolic College. So he, as the leader, the Pope is the head of the Apostolic College. He is the visible principle of the rule of faith. Those who look to him have the assurance that the faith is true. Got it? Understand it. Whoever watches Pope Francis, to use the term loosely, has confirmation that he is the visible principle of the rule of faith. Which faith? There is a church that, if it were true, was going against the gospel. But here it wouldn't be enough, I don't know, something like a reparative penitential liturgy afterwards, when there was an awareness that Bergoglio wasn't the Pope, and that he destroyed the Catholic identity. Here it wouldn't be enough, I don't know what. They would need, I don't know, entire periods of penance. Because this is a church that is fully aware it is betraying the gospel and betraying the tradition. And precisely this command of Christ to the apostles and then to their successors, the bishops, with the Bishop of Rome at the head, who is the head of the Apostolic College, to announce, the council says to announce. Christ told the apostles to preach the gospel. The church exists for that, to preach the gospel. If it doesn't preach the gospel, but itself, it's not Christ's church. But worse still, if it does not proclaim the gospel, and instead of announcing itself, it announces a gospel contrary to that of Christ. Is it the church of the Antichrist, or am I just making this up? And regarding you, I would like to clarify that in the vision of Catherine Emmerich, as we shall see now, my dear ones, in Catherine Emmerich's vision, there is indeed the account of the construction of the false church. In the vision, in a series of interesting visions, he and she say this. We've talked about it many times, but what do you want? Silly Galatians, you left them behind at the last peddlers. I saw a strange church, but if it's strange, it can't be the one of Jesus Christ, Father Faret. Is that right? She might tell me, as she tried to say, to avoid relying on prophecies, but I quoted the Dei Verbum at number 7 and the Catechism of the Catholic Church at number 87. What shall we do? Can I now refer to the prophecies after citing the official magisterium? Catherine Emmerich says, I saw a strange church being built against all rules. So to the people that say it's just about wicked people present in the church. No, we're talking about the construction of the false church. You need to stop acting like judges. You must have the humility to remain silent. Father Faret must make amends immediately. It's contaminating people's minds. He has an immense responsibility. He has come, as Brother Celestino said in God's holy garden of the little remnant, to devastate it and the wild boar of the woods. He came like a wild boar. He's not a wild boar, because then they get offended. He came like a wild boar into our garden, digging in our garden, bringing along the people who now follow him. They deserve to follow him because they are foolish. They are foolish. or something synonymous. They are foolish. The false church is being built. Is there a work that Bergoglio, the Freemasonry, as I demonstrated in my book, but have you forgotten these things? Now that you have heard from me again, you are trying to understand whether it is wise to go with Father Faré, or we will abandon Don Minutella because he is rude, spreads hate, does not ask for forgiveness, is angry, and raises his voice. I feel pity for these souls. They are at risk and they don't even realize it, and you can see it, you can really see it. I ask my fellow members of the Sodalizio, let me carry this pain, let me manage it, because it is an immense pain, not for me as far as I'm concerned. I am at peace, in joy, but an immense pain for them. As St. Paul says, who has bewitched you? The Greek verb is very strong. It could be translated with the verb to enchant, the technical term of witchcraft. Who has bewitched you? Who is the last sorcerer that set you against me? I don't know, occupying your mind and heart. It's about the construction of the false church, Belgian lady. It's not true that Katharina Emmerich says, as you claimed, that the false church is made up solely of people. No, we're talking about a reality. So, either you are being disingenuous or you are unprepared. So in that case, take the rosary and be quiet. It's too convenient what Father Faré is suggesting to you, to stay where you are. Is he telling the truth? In God's name? Father Faré is speaking in the name of the Lord and the Holy Virgin when he said in the past few days, are you going to Mass in your parishes? Is it in the name of the Lord that he is telling you this? You sort it out. I saw a strange church being built against all rules. There were no angels overseeing the construction. In that church, there was nothing that came from above. Do you understand? So it's not true to comfort Father Faré as you want to do, that the false church Katharina Emmerich speaks of is made only by people. You are intellectually dishonest. All of you following Father Faré have a level of intellectual dishonesty never seen before, never seen before. I read again, because instead there is a construction of Bergoglio's church. The false church is structural. It looks like the Catholic Church and is not made only of people. It is made of a structure. I saw a strange church being built, so it's not just about people. It's not just about people. I didn't see a single angel or a single saint helping. And I'll stop here, otherwise I won't finish. I would instead like to return for a moment to the Catechism of the Catholic Church regarding the Scriptures. The Catechism of the Catholic Church emphasizes that the Church is founded on the Gospel, and that without the Gospel, the Church does not exist, as it would no longer be the Church of Jesus Christ. Theological question: how can you say to those who have left that this is still the Church of Jesus Christ when they are living a gospel that is not only not identical to that of Christ, but is even opposed to it? How do we explain it? So if it's a Catholic Church, at the very least it no longer is. It never was under Bergoglio. Because on the 13th of March 2013, the resignation of the Third should make us reflect. A childhood church of darkness was officially born. Officially, Satan has revealed himself as the foreman of this. As Padre Pio used to say, Gabriella, it's Satan who has entered the church, and soon he will govern a false church. So my appeal is to all of you who haven't been enchanted, because I repeat, St. Paul, chapter 3 of the letter 1 says, O foolish Galatians, who has bewitched you? To all of you who do not let yourselves be enchanted, I command as the guide of the little, soon as the guide of the Marian priestly sodality, not to let yourselves be charmed. Persevere in the path you are taking. We are not just making an effort in 4, but in 8, or rather even 12, each of us priests to meet you. Dr. Scianchi's statements, in which he invited Father Faré and justified his invitation, were those claiming that there were people starving for sacraments. It was a false statement, a falsehood for which he should apologize, because we had been in Milan, he doesn't come, he has never come. To the meetings, because he has never come, he explained it, and we have always respected that. But he cannot afford to bypass the priests of the association by saying, deciding for himself what it is, who gave him this task. We would like to know who transformed Dr. Cianci from a journalist to the leader of the small remnant, the one who must save the church. But everyone is going mad. I don't know. Is he the wizard of madness, or is it just my impression? Dom Minatella's wrong. So there are people who also leave the little remnant because Dr. Cianci, being kind and elegant, saves the church. A lay journalist who, by the way, constantly claims that he does not say whether he believes or not. We've always respected that. We have always respected him. However, one must not allow it, absolutely must not allow it to overstep us. When he was allowed, he even acts offended, he even acts resentful to say, I invite Father Fare, because around Milan, in Bergamo, there is such a hunger for sacraments. Dr. Cianci, do you realize that you have exceeded every limit? But we had been there just a few days before, and we were going back, and we were really full. But mind your own business on this matter. It would have been more delicate, first of all, to clarify Father Fare's positions and perhaps invite the priests of the association, because the people who come to his meetings are the ones who used to attend Father Fare's Mass. If I hadn't raised my voice, they are my people. They are our people, not yours. But what an incredible situation. And what do you want Father Fare to do, Dr. Cianci? Woof, woof, woof. You're invading my sacred space, and you think I go woof, woof, woof? I'm barking right back at you. Who wants to go? Naturally, one cannot, how shall I put it, even when Jesus said to Judas with a kiss, betray the Son of Man, and then Judas, and then even when he was going to, one cannot, how shall I put it, insist too much. But as it is written in Maria Valtorta, God allowed the Madonna to see him just before he went to his death. And then the Madonna cried out to him that this should be the last desperate attempt to save him against all the, how shall I say, re-evaluation of poor Judas. The Madonna cries out to him, and he stops for a moment. He stops for a moment and turns to look, but then he turns his back and goes to take his own life. So, it's not that one can insist, but we have raised our voice, and we will continue to raise it to warn the faithful. Last night I delved a bit into this blessed matter. I hope the Franciscans of any kind, particularly Brother Francis and Brother Elias, won't take it amiss. They've made an absolute mess of things. The Franciscans, unforgivable, all to save their own skins. How can I understand, for goodness sake, but the truth must always be told. And they make us rush in, Brother Francis at a certain point, as Thomas of Celano would say, the first biographer. Yesterday it was explored further, finally. Despite being tired, I wanted to dedicate myself to this exploration. So Brother Tommaso da Celano says that Brother Elia was the first, the privileged one of Francesco, the alter ego, but the alter ego who changed the rule. The alter ego who couldn't bear to see St. Francesco leave. That's a fact. But be careful saying this to the Franciscans because they don't want to touch on it. As for them, it's a wound that will remain until the return of Christ. You can be sure of that because they understand it, they perceive it. In fact, a text I read last night was about the new traitor. Just as there was Judas for Christ, there was Brother Elias for Francis, whom I remind you of. And then in the Fioretti, which apparently the Franciscans do not endorse, it is said that St. Francis prophesied that Brother Elias would be excommunicated, which indeed happened as he got involved in the political troubles of the time with Frederick II, and so on. He was excommunicated by the Pope. This caused him great suffering. But St. Francis said that in the end, through his prayer and forgiveness, because St. Francis forgave him, he and Brother Elias would ultimately be saved. So I have formed an idea. It's the first time I'm saying this. I have finally found a bit of peace, because you know that until now I had said that this story of St. Francis, who arrives, returns, well, to put it briefly, be careful, because this is something extremely important that I'm saying today. St. Francis returns and finds the situation he does, that is, Brother Elias wants to take charge and changes all the rules of the game. And this is evidently a satanic work. There's no doubt it was to build the work without St. Francis. And then what does St. Francis do? Instead of arming himself and fighting to prevent it, he takes off and runs away. He physically flees. He flees away to Laverna. This has never allowed me to fully reconcile with St. Francis. Finally, last night, after spending a few hours reflecting, I said to myself in my heart, listen, Francis of Assisi, as you can see, I have dedicated time to this matter here, even though I am tired. Now, if you want, make me feel in my heart how things really went. Francis did not flee, he offered a way. That is, he made it clear without wanting to argue, because he was the man of peace. He was called to a polemical confrontation, to open dialogue. He had already made it clear to the brothers, I have written the rule, and now I am leaving. Who wants to accept that? Follow me, not physically, follow my rule. What Brother Elia proposes is a forgery. You know that the Church gradually ended up recognizing that which was ultimately counterfeit, and that's why there are issues of history, of historical memory. Why am I telling you all this? Because when God entrusts a mission, it is entrusted to just one, and many present themselves as possible substitutes sent by who knows who to replace him, to change the game. Don Minutella isn't St. Francis, so he doesn't run away, especially since the Verna and the mountains don't appeal to me, because if I go to the sea, I'm easily repeatable, so I end up not running away at all. However, what I wanted to say is to be cautious of those who offer you a small, different remainder, an alternative solution that isn't the one we initially established by paying in person. I would like to reiterate this. Wait for us for the celebrations. As we are touring, now with Brother Celestino, we are out and about until the 8th of December. Soon we will be traveling not just in the north. As you know, we are also heading down to Cassino on the 10th of November. On the 9th of November, we will be in Pescara, then in Naples, then in Bari, and then we will head back up. The meeting in Belgium, even though Father Faré is going, we will hold it. And if Father Faré wants, I am available for the second appeal I make. So he who refuses to engage in dialogue, what is happening is surreal. He refuses to confront and acts as if everything is fine. I ask to discuss it openly in front of people because I won't allow you to manipulate consciences. So let's clarify. And he tells me no, it's just me who doesn't want dialogue. I assure you, I need your prayers. Not because I can't cope, but to keep me calm with this lot, people who today applaud you, and as soon as you turn your back, they stab you in the back. It's not like they leave in a polite way saying, no, look, I thank you, but no, you Saxon pig, and then they get offended if I call them idiots. Yet those same people who get offended don't remove the insults directed at me from their profiles. Bastard. I only mention the bigger terms, but I'm the one who offends, I'm the violent one. As the girl said, I'm the one who spreads hate. Is shouting the truth and defending the flock spreading hate today? We've reached this point. So, decide. A church without the gospel is a church without tradition, a church that denies the gospel, a church that rewrites the apostolic gospel of tradition. Is the Church of Christ still there? Be careful, because after the edge there's a precipice. Be careful, because there's a chasm, and in an instant you can fall. Beware of the pipers coming. I've been telling you for years, the Freemasons will do everything to discredit us. They took away little Nazareth. There you go. Take that. I told you so. Some people don't understand it because the masses don't want to be easily led. They follow the last piper who comes along. May the Madonna help you, dear children. Hold the rosary in your hands. Pray, humility, silence, prayer, and trust in the shepherds that the Madonna has sent. I would say especially in the guidance that the Madonna has chosen, despite their limitations. And to have called them foolish idiots is not at all an insult. Foolish ones, Galatians, who has bewitched you. what happened to you in front of which we announce the living gospel? Today is Friday. May the Lord forgive you. I pray for you, dear enemies of the last hour, and may the Madonna assist you.